Well, I say that for this moment, we've got a little more to do. I have finally printed out a few pages to go by as far as how I am going to make these little symbols on the dreidel. So I'd say they kind of go in a certain order around the thing, and I will say that this is one that I've printed out. It kind of tells you what it is, and then it's kind of something where I don't really know all these actions and names or how to pronounce these Hebrew words, but I will tell you all that we're going to work on the first letter to these dreidels today, and or symbol or whatever, and today we are going to work on shin, the one that means share, the one at the bottom, that is. So I'm going to try to work about these, kind of make the little symbol so that it's going to show, and to see what this is going to be. I finally got it on there like that. Unfortunately, it was kind of hard to really make it so it could be so much as it needed to be to the center of the block, but that is okay because it'll kind of be a little thing to take us on to the next one and show us what we're going to need to do to make it just right. So I say that we are getting it in the right place this time. Get it just to where it will really need to be, and so kind of add the little extra onto this to try to make a little extra shape in the wood. And so I say perhaps we could take it on to this one too, try to make it so the symbol might come out a little bit bigger. Nothing wrong with having things a little unique here with your letters and symbols, because I mean, this is kind of the stuff I'm not all that familiar with because I don't play the game, but you know, there's always good uses for little materials you have. I think I'm going to make this other little symbol here too. Make it so we got just the type of thing that we need to have in the very work that we are doing. And so have this little dreidel symbol to come, and look how this is just making the little shim, or shin that is, which means to share or add a token, that is. And I've got it on here as what all it tells us that each little thing means, and so much to say as far as finding it out, but apparently there's just moves in the game as far as whether you're supposed to take half the pot or all of the pot or do nothing or whatever it says. And then there's just things where we see how the game just goes a little further. I did actually kind of read somewhere about how Hanukkah started as a tradition. It had to do with Judas Maccabeus and the rededication of the temple. I mean, you know, now I believe the New Testament, and of course, you know, I believe that It was an event that took place in between the times of the Old and New Testament. And I heard that there was a miracle of the oil in the story, and that that there was just something about the miracles that took place in the temple that the holiday celebrates, and even something about the extra money that was in the temple that the presence of in tradition is kind of based on. So we know that things have happened for good reasons and things we know about, and so I just wanted to share that little thought with you. As soon as these letters dry, we may come on to make the next one here. So just wanted to say that we're just going to take a little break for a moment and come back. Well, it's been a few hours since recording the last part of this video and came back on to record the next. There is a little symbol called hey that is apparently the second one up, that means take half out of the pot. So I'd say yes, for now we've gotten the brush washed out, taken care of, and for this little moment, that is probably going to be the next one of these we are going to try to work on. And we kind of got the dreidels in a different direction here as for how they're going to be, and decide now that this is just something where we can make this little mark here and sort of like put this in place just like this. Some of these letters, they almost look like some of our English alphabet letters, and so, you know, it's almost like this shin kind of looks like, in some cases it looks like a W, but in this case it looks like a lowercase y, and in this case the hey looks like a lowercase n. And I tell you, there was just a little stripe of paint that kind of got a little bit on the loose there, so had to thicken that up to try to cover that. And there's going to be little ways we're going to kind of work to make the next part really have its way to us. And so this is just one little thing we do to kind of show how we're going to make little things just like this work. I say there appears to be one little bristle that's kind of going a little bit too far out and kind of making little tiny lines of the type we seem like we don't need. So sort of take care and cover that. There's going to be times when, for all these letters we make, some of it is going to be a little ways of wonder that come to us and show us that we have a little bit of light in us, and that this is just kind of the symbol of how we know our faith and things, and the way we do the little things we do in life, and just to show a little way of work. Here is one more letter done that way. Tried to get a little extra paint here so that we can probably avoid having the stray bristles kind of make all those extra tiny little lines we don't need out to the edge, and kind of see how a little work does us a little good, and then we see that this is just how work comes along. And I'd say we have painted all 4 of these hays on here. Apparently there does seem to be a Hebrew word for each of these, and the Hebrew word is kind of pronounced a little bit differently than the way it's written on here. I'm not sure how all these are pronounced, because like I say, I do not belong to that faith, and I do not play that game, but surely there's somebody who knows how to pronounce them who is watching this, who is of that faith and probably does know. So you'd be welcome to ask any of them if you'd like. Find out exactly how these things are pronounced, what they mean and all. I know there's just been a lot to be said these days, and you know, it's just a time when for a few years seems like a little anti-Semitism has been going on. It's a shame, because I mean, you know, it's just kind of one of those things where it was one thing that Kanye West had been doing for a while, and then it kind of was one thing that I'd say it happened in a church, it happened in a synagogue somewhere, and a man had recently been sentenced to death for a hate crime. And then there had also just, I'd say, been a time fairly recently when there was also just the stuff that kind of happened with Hamas in Israel on a holiday. And even in America on that holiday, some people went to their synagogues and heard the news. It's just horrible what this world has come to. And you know, even in times like World War II, it was like this, and we had these times when a lot of horrible things were going on. And I've even read some stuff about the history of it and different ways it's taken place over the years, even in 70 AD with the Romans, and all the ways it has happened in life. We know that we should all be praying for one another and all be looking out for each other, be on each other's sides, and be on the lookout, and always pray for everything. Thanks for coming on. We'll be back in a moment to paint on the next letter. Well, I say that we took a little momentary break there, and I just kind of went up to kind of take care of some things upstairs in the kitchen, wash up some dishes, and talk to my mom a little bit while one session of the news was on. But the part she really likes to see of the news is on now, so decided by now the letters were dry, and come on up and try to take care of the next little part of the dreidels. And then there's just kind of this thing, this letter Gimel, that's kind of second from the top, third from the bottom. That's the one we're going to do now. It means get all. And so that's what it comes down to. And I forgot to notice here what the translation of the Hebrew words were, but Shin was there, Hey was happened, and Gimel is great. So that's what we see in those letters there, and we're gonna paint the Gimel onto these dreidels now and kind of make it so we're going to see a letter come in just the way this one did. And for little things, we do kind of work our way up just a little bit, make it so we got something that kind of looks like an upside down letter Y. We know that the shin kind of in this case looked like one lowercase y, but this is the little gimel like an upside down lowercase y, the way it comes out. Wanted to mention to you all that in the Spanish language, a capital Y by itself is pronounced E, and in that language it means and. So that was one thing that we come to see, that this brings to mind, that we talk about in a moment like this, because I've certainly searched a lot of old things and seen a lot of old stuff in my life and read a lot of old books and doctrines. And I mean, in my life we've known missionaries who have gone to different parts of the world, and I once knew some missionaries in my life who went to Peru, and from that little country it was like they spoke Spanish. So one day I sort of like wanted to know a little Spanish when I was younger, and especially some Spanish scripture. So I picked up a Spanish Bible in a store and kind of read in it a little bit and learned a little bit about the words and the names and the language and all. So that's kind of what I discovered as I looked into that, and could certainly ask a lot of questions as to what things meant, like finding out that an A alone in Spanish is pronounced ah, and it means to, T-O. So, as of all things, I say that this is just one little work we have and that we do just to make things come out a little better in the long run. And I wanted to mention a little thing or two about things that kind of introduced me a little bit to Dreidel, and it being the Jewish game. And there was a certain episode of South Park I'd seen a while back when I used to watch it, and I don't really like to talk about this much because, I mean, you know, there was a kind of a Dreidel song on there, and, you know, there was a Jewish kid who sang it, and another kid who was involved in the song. Hey, he's a horrible kid. He's just a cartoon character, but he's a horrible kid. I mean, so don't even like to stress what he was saying or singing while he was in the song. So just a little thing that we don't really get much into these days when it comes to this stuff. And, you know, I don't watch that show anymore. I tell you, I just got back to where I just kind of got back to being my serious self again, and getting away from those programs and all the kinds of ways they can kind of reduce your mind and kind of brainwash you to think little things are okay that really aren't, and think things are funny that really aren't. So it's just kind of a good thing I got that out of my life. I will kind of mention that there's little other letters that come along and symbols in the Hebrew alphabet, and as you know, it's like Hebrew actually goes from right to left. So that's kind of the reason why the order of these letters on the dreidel turn from right to left as you go about them. And that's why I started from the bottom, so I could go left to right, because I'm used to English language and all, and used to things being left to right. So that's kind of how I go and how I learned the alphabet in school and all. So I say that it was a good time here just to show you all this letter and how we do it. And we'll kind of turn this off now and give it time to dry and come back in a little bit to show you more. Well, I'll tell you all that as for the moment now, we're going to get on and finally put on this last little letter. We're going to kind of put on the letter none, which means miracle, and do nothing when it comes to the pot. And so just one little thing we kind of got left to do. Put a little bit of a little something in here, and as for this last little space, just put the letter right in, and perhaps it wouldn't hurt anything if we got a little paint down inside that crack there, because there is kind of a crack in the wood there, but probably won't hurt the dreidel much. Probably make it a little rather unique like, you know. If this does prevent any purchases or keep anybody from wanting it, there's always a chance we can go back and just putty that crack in, you know. And there's just a little place here where we got a little something in, and try to like narrow it down to the very, very, very little thing we kind of, I say, like need it to be, and get down to this little last place, come down to where it's coming to where we got that one in. I'd say depending on the little view or how you do the letter, it can almost look like a backwards C in a way. So one little thing we put on this, kind of get a little bit of a little work on this, kind of put the little place where the little symbol shall make its way in, make it so we see just what this little thing shall come down to being, with all the little time and work and all that goes right into what we do. Make the little sign for one little end of a dreidel, and put a little work to rest. Kind of have a little ways to go on this. Make this one come out as best as it can be, where we kind of got the lines right in. And so this is just one of those old brushes, I guess. It must be getting down to its last days. Must be getting pretty old, I say, and getting where it can handle much less. So we kind of got to where we got the letter put on this one too, and got one more to do here, one more to put the last little letter on, and thinking sooner or later it is going to be time to get another set of paint brushes, because like we say, these are growing pretty old. And then come down to where we have this little letter just the way it shall come to be. And I'd say as of now, this will probably end this little dreidel video, maybe even end the whole series. I mean, away from video time, I'm going to, of course, put my initials and the year in them with the wood burner. We will more than likely not be putting the logo on these, because there's really no place to put the logo where it probably wouldn't mess the project up. So it's kind of, or the slogan rather, the slogan tag. And so that is just something that is going to come down to when we get finished with these. But I thank you all for coming on here to watch this series. Hope you all will come by to see many more things. And one thing I forgot to mention, these will be soaked in the oil, so that's going to be one thing after the last of the paint dries. And thank you all for coming on to watch. If it interests you to do so, I'd like it if you'd subscribe to this channel and share these videos so that many more people will see and we get many more subscribers to come. Thank you again for watching. Hope you will take care, and I will see you in the next series.